I've never considered myself an explorer or someone particularly brave. However, that didn't stop me from ending up in the situation I'm in now. It's been about 3 months since my girlfriend of 4 years left me for another man. They were my only connection to a social life. Of course, I have friends I love to see, but most of them live about an hour's drive away, so it's rare that I go see them or that they come to visit. During these last 3 months, I've gone through all the different stages of a high. Grief, self-pity, despair and rage. After reflecting on my life, I decided to make a few small improvements. Despite not being out of shape, I wanted to improve my physique to be more attractive to women. That was an issue due to my extreme laziness. In my life, I didn't have everything handed to me on a silver platter. But I had learned to put minimal effort into every activity. So, instead of getting a gym membership and driving 5 minutes to get there, I decided to just make myself a mini gym in my apartment. I moved into a 3-room apartment about a month before my ex left me, leaving me to live there alone. My apartment was in the building farthest from the complex on the 2nd floor. The balcony provided an excellent view of a huge soccer field and the forest behind it. The only problem I had was that my landlady lived right below me. I quickly realized my home gym would be problematic. I hadn't even finished a set of jumping jacks when that killjoy started banging with a broom to let me know I had to stop. It annoyed me to have to be careful about everything I did, but I decided to be reasonable and try to understand her. So, I found another solution. Instead of going to the gym like everyone else, I thought about the huge field right behind my house. The field stretched for several hundred meters and was surrounded by dense forest, except for the side facing my apartment. There was also a large distant parking lot, invisible from the main street leading to it. It was October. I had plenty of time to get familiar with the place before winter arrived. I live in Texas, and here, the temperatures don't drop until December. I only went there at night, preferably after midnight or 1 in the morning, when the football field's big floodlights were turned off. And after all the teens who stayed very late had left for home, I would slip through the fence surrounding my building and disappear into the night. And during that time, I felt really good, at peace and all alone. Everything I loved. I brought my weights, ran around the field, and enjoyed bringing friends occasionally to have a drink and play football. Although going there by moonlight alone could be scary, it was better than going to the town gym. At least that's what I thought at first. As my isolation intensified, my sleep cycle became disrupted. I soon found myself awake at impossible hours. A week ago I had a very tough night. After lying in my bed for almost an hour and not feeling my eyelids close even once, I realized that my efforts to fall asleep were futile. I got out of bed around 1 anti-meridienne. It was strange. I had often felt inexplicably drawn to the field, as if my body and thoughts were not my own. And as I put on a jacket to prepare for the cold, waiting for me outside, I looked out my bedroom window and was surprised to see that the field's floodlights were still on. I figured an employee forgot to turn them off since it was late. I didn't really worry about it any further. I grabbed my phone and went outside. I felt surprisingly brave that night. I jogged to the field and put my t-shirt and jacket near the edge. I felt immensely strong. After that, I put on some music and headed toward the center of the field. I felt like someone awaited me there. The overwhelming brightness of the floodlights, combined with the contrast of the darkness of the forest, gave me a strange feeling. But I kept going toward the center and started looking around me. In the dim light, our brains often play tricks on us at that hour. I also used to glance back multiple times when I thought I spotted a shadow running at night. Usually, it was just a flag or a plastic bag being carried by the wind, but that night, it was different. The bright lights cast shadows across the field. And as I walked quietly, freezing and alone, with only David Bowie for company, playing through my phone, I felt really bad. After 5 minutes of playing soccer, a strong gust of wind swept across my chest, making me shiver violently. And then, I heard a loud metallic scraping sound coming from the woods. Not far from the edge of the field, I stopped dead in my tracks, like a statue. I had goosebumps. Like I said before, it wasn't unusual for there to be noises around the field, even at night, so I quickly rationalized it. It was probably the wind that had blown something against the big metal trash can that was not far from there. So I continued my training, even though I was especially alert. When, all of a sudden, my music stopped, which forced me to look at my phone. Damn. And I say out loud, I was out of battery. That's when I heard the metallic noise again, and quickly turned my head toward the source of the sound. I waited several seconds. No gust of wind this time. In a vast field, it's nearly impossible to discern the direction of a sound due to the large open space. Your ears deceive you in such situations. But I felt it wasn't coming from the trash can as I initially thought. But on the other side of the field, I'd had enough for the night. Without looking back, I put my phone in my pocket and started running toward my building. But that's when everything happened. The spotlights suddenly went out. Every damn light went out instantly. I was there, almost completely naked, my eyes streaming with tears from the cold and goosebumps covering every inch of my body. I started running faster. I felt vulnerable and alone. I'm not someone who's frail or fearful, but I knew that no matter who or what was messing with me so late at night, they had to be crazier than I was. With 100 meters left, I glanced back, unsure if I should feel grateful or terrified that nothing emerged from the darkness behind me. But in any case, I was running faster than I had in a very, very long time. My intense fear made me completely forget to grab my t-shirt and jacket. But I felt relieved once I reached the apartment complex. I went through the gate, ran to my building, and took the stairs 2 at a time. I slammed the door and locked it behind me. I was out of breath and bumped into the kitchen table, my legs and lungs burning terribly. I was shaken, but I was okay. I put on a t-shirt, almost forgetting the one I had left behind on the field. And I started boiling some water to make myself some tea. I could finally relax. At least that's what I thought then. Then I heard... 3 knocks were heard on my front door. At 2 in the morning, I immediately thought it could be the police. They finally caught me for trespassing on private property. I told myself that calmly explaining the situation to them might get me off with just a warning. I walked to my door and grabbed the handle. But some kind of intuition stopped me from opening it. Instead, I looked through the people and then I stepped as far away from the door as I could. Violent shivers ran through my whole body. I glanced at the door to make sure it was properly closed and I put on the chain. A new series of knocks on the door echoed through my apartment. When I looked through the people, all I saw was total darkness. That meant someone up to no good, standing right behind the door, had deliberately covered it. The next day, I went to get my jacket and my t-shirt. The high sun in the sky provided warmth and a sense of order. The field was filled with families happily playing soccer. But my things were no longer there. There were no signs of the previous night's events. On the following nights, from my window, I saw something close by under a floodlight on the field. A black figure that seemed to be at least 2 meters tall. At times, it remained motionless beneath the light. Other times, it moved very slowly, its feet crawling on the ground, as if it were floating. The worst part of all this is that I could see its head, even though I couldn't make out any features, like its mouth, its eyes, or anything else. I could see very clearly that its head was turned in my direction. That man or that thing was looking at me from where it was. Sometimes, when I closed the shutters, I could hear it knocking at my door barely 2 minutes later. I didn't know how it could move so fast, but it was clearly supernatural. I never looked out my window again after that. Because, in addition to the way it moved, or the fact that it could move at an incredible speed, sometimes it would reach out its hand, or more precisely, its finger pointing directly at me. It seemed to know my exact location, despite the room's darkness. It was exactly a week ago, and every night since then, the field's floodlights have stayed on until 2 in the morning. Every evening at the same time I hear that same metallic sound. Then the thing comes and knocks on my door. I realized that going straight to my apartment probably wasn't the best idea. Because now the person or thing that was on the property that night knows who I am and where I live. I don't know what to do. I think I should move. Maybe I'll go to my parents' place. I don't know. I have to leave, and I have to admit that I'm terrified. But I have to admit that it's the things from this morning that got me on edge. I opened the door at 8 in the morning to go to work, and I almost stepped on something. It was right in front of my door, a pile of dirty fabric. I thought it belonged to a homeless person who had slept in front of my door overnight. But then I noticed something. Even though it was terribly torn and dirty, it was still recognizable. I threw it on the ground. It was my jacket. As I speak to you, I hear it. And he's about to come in. Open. Subtitles 501.